Jai Hind everybody. I am Dr. Rashmi Sharma from Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, works in Department of Information Technology. Today we would be discussing a critical topic of Unit 5, that what are the different interaction devices, and in this we would be especially discussing what are the different keyboard layout operations, or what are the different types of keyboard layouts which we have to take into consideration while we are purchasing a specific keyboard. So coming to this, we have n number of interactive devices, and the first one which we usually come across is the keyboard. When a particular student, or you might also have done some of the programmings in your schools, and when you were working in the schools, or when you were doing some programming or working on computers in the school, you used to use these particular keyboards. So most popular, or the different types of the keyboards which are in the market, are being discussed here. The first one is QWERTY. If you look into this particular keyboard, I think I would let you know, this is the keyboard which I am having, and in this keyboard we have Q, W, E, R, T and Y. These are all the keys which are there from the left hand side of the top row below the number keys. So this keyboard is named after this particular name of the keys, that is QWERTY. See, in the last video of Unit 3 Screen Designing, we have discussed that we usually look, or we usually have a top right corner from where we look into the screens. Similarly, when the alphabetic keys are being starting in this keyboard, see these are all at the alphabetic keys. So the left top corner is Q, then W, then E, R, T, Y. This concept was given in 1870 by Christopher Lethman Souls. He used this particular key, and when you look into this particular operation, ERT are the keys which are very frequently used, and they approximately come in the left central part of that particular keyboard. So this is a good mechanical design and a clever placement of letters that slowed the user enough of key jamming infrequently. So, and these are, we use all these particular frequently used characters together when we are using this particular keyboard. So I would again let you know that when you look into this particular keyboard, see, we have seen Q, W, E, R, T, Y are the keys. Then see, A, S and D. These are the keys which are most frequently used. Again, they are on the left side of your finger, or left side of this particular keyboard. And you have a little line like this at the bottom of this keyboard, that is on the character F and on the character J. So this lets you know that you have the keys like A, S, D on the left side of this F, and K and L on the right side of this particular key of J. And in between you have G and H. These are the assignments, and by looking, this is the middle row. I should say this is the middle row. The top row is Q, W, E, R, T, Y on the left side. And then you have a bottom row. You have 3 rows of this alphabet. This is the top row, top left. This is the middle row, which gives you to identify what all characters where you have to move your fingers. These particular keys are kept such that you don't slow down your using of the keys, and your fingers, these particular veins or your hand doesn't get jammed, or it doesn't pains or doesn't have a stress when you prolongly use these particular keys. So this is the first keyboard which was given in 1870. The second keyboard is called as the Dvorak, that has DWORKY, and this was given in 1920. See, this was in 1870. Sorry, this was in 1870. So approximately 50 years later, this particular keyboard was given, and so this has DVORKY as the keys which were kept on your left hand side of the keyboard. So it reduces the finger travel distance so that you have a least magnitude order. So order should be, when you are having your keys on the middle, this is the keyboard size. Okay, so this is middle, this is top, and this is the lower. So whenever you have these particular popped up keys of which we have seen here, F and J, so you should have least distance. Only you can move here, or similarly you can move here and here. So least distances, so you have a travel distance is less, so it reduces the finger stress also. So acceptance has been slow despite of dedicated efforts from some devotee. This keyword was usually less acceptable. We usually see this particular keyboard. This is the most popular keyboard which we usually use, which was defined in 1870. So it takes about 1 week for the regular typing to switch from your QWERTY to Dvorak layout keyboard. So this was the second. So first is QWERTY, second is the Dvorak. The third one gives you ABCDE style. These are 26 alphabets which you have. They are arranged in the same order. That is, as the name suggests, A, B, C, D, E, F and up to X, Y, Z. They are in the same order. So you don't have to learn any of the keys. This is very good for the novice users or the users who are learning, who are doing typing for the first time, or they are not a frequent users, because they don't have to learn the ordering of the keys as I have showed you for QWERTY. But in addition, this was given by IBM PC keyboard, which is widely criticized because of the placement of these particular keys. I have to use some of the keys most frequently. So the frequent keys which we have to use is, as I told you, that we usually used ASD, these keys most frequently, and ERT are the keys which are most frequently used. So these particular keys are at a maximum distance when we are using ABCD style. See, A is the first alphabet, S is somewhere in here, D is somewhere here, D, E, and R again, S, R, and T. So their distances when you have to type is very much. That is not a single distance, because when we are having a 3 row, then obviously this would be in the first row and this would be in the third row. So your hand movement or the hand placement has to be such that you would usually have this particular stress in your hands. And backslash keys, when most typists shift the shift keys. Here, shift keys, I think you can see that we have a shift key here. So in ABCD style, you were having a backslash, this backslash here, so that we have to, that created a problem for the typists who were usually using Dvorak or the QWERTY keyboard. And the placement of several special characters such as the enter keys. The numpad layout. Here you can see the numpad layout is exactly in the same manner, like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, when you see the placement, it is the num key has 0 here, 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. This placement is in the reverse order. Okay, so similarly, we have some specific placement for the num key and for this particular keys. So numpad layout was also there, and when we have this particular keyboard at the top, it is 1, 2, 3, 4. It is in the sequence order in here also, but the alphabets has to be in the jumbled order, because we have to use some of the characters more frequently as compared to the other. So the wrist and hand placement has to be such that we usually, when we are talking about, we are not talking about ourselves, because we are not the typist. We program for some of the time, but we have a think, we look, and then we do the programming in that particular aspect. So we are not a regular typist, but a regular typist, for example, take a person who types a book. For a regular typist, he has to do approximately 6 to 8 hours typing work. And in 6 to 8 hours, if this particular veins get stretched, or this wrist has a twisting or a more movement to be done, then after some time they would feel fatigue and they wouldn't have the same speed continued like they had in the morning. So keep the key speeding same. We have to have such an arrangement so that we have less stress on the fingers, less stress on our wrist and the hand movement, so that we can have a continuous same speed at each and every phase of the day. So then comes, what are the different keys? What are the key? These were the 3 keyboard layouts. So now these are some of the characteristics, I should say, what for all those particular keys which we have on our keyboard. So I would again take this particular keyboard for you, and you can see each and every key is a square key. See, all these keys except the top ones, these are the rectangular keys. Each and every key, or this caps lock, tab, but all the alphabet, all the function keys, the window icons, or your num lock or your insert, all the keys are square keys, and that square is half an inch when you measure with that particular scale. So it is half an inch square, and the distance between these two particular keys is 1/4 inch spacing between each and every key. No more spacing is there, no less spacing is there. And similarly, you have a slightly concave surface. If you see, this surface is like this of your keyboard key, this way. So whenever you have this, you can exactly place your finger, and this particular, the bulging out of your finger, it get placed into that particular portion, so that you don't feel a fatigue. If this would have been a flat surface, then whenever you press, your this bulging out portion would get pressed, and you would feel a tension in your fingers. So all these particular keyboards are being designed such that to make a typist or a programmer comfortable who works for at least 6 to 8 hours. Then matte finish to reduce the glare finger slippage. Each and every key has a matte finish. It's not a glossy one. Your finger don't slip. It has a grip. For gripping, you have one thing. One is the concave surface, and then you have a coarse, a slightly coarse surface. It's a matte finish which is called. And so you have these particular thing which makes your finger to hold that particular key. Then 40 to 125 grams of force to activate that particular key. So you require a specific force to activate that particular. So this forces has also now been reduced. This 125 gram force we used to take when we were studying in our college, and when we used to press that particular key, it used to give us a sound, and we would able to know that we are pressing something. So the key is being pressed, or you are typing something. So there are some of the things which has increased in the due course of time, that is this technology, and so the force you require is very less, because I don't think so whenever you are typing on your keyboards of your phone, smartphones, you use a much larger force. It's a very smooth force and very less force which is being required. Okay. Then 3 to 5 mm displacement means, if this particular key is there, it's not necessary that you press this particular portion and you will get that key. If somehow you come and press this portion also, then also it would have that particular key entered into your text. So you have this tactile and audible feedback inputs also. So these are some of the important points where you can see how these particular keys are being used. Okay. Then the certain keys should be larger. Obviously, as I told you, you have some certain keys, and we can see on this particular keyboard, the shift key, this key is larger in size. The enter key, the backspace key, those are not the square key. Obviously, the tab, caps lock, shift, control, and again the enter key, the alt key, and the window key. These are the keys, and obviously these particular keys which are there on your different functions. So all these keys are your rectangular keys, and these particular keys are rectangular in size. They are not square keys. Again, they have that particular concave surface. They have that particular coarse area also, matte finish also, so that you can have a hold on that things. So some keys require state indicators. Obviously, the state indicators is the light which is blinking on it. Same for your numlock key also. When your numlock is on, you press that particular numlock key, you have a tiny indicator, a light which is being indicating that that key is active or not. These keys are also called as the toggle keys. Toggle keys are the keys when you press once, if it is off, it gets on. And when you press, if it is on, it gets off. The same key is used for offing that particular function, or for activating that function, and for deactivating that function. Those keys are called as the toggle keys. So you have this particular caps lock key, or the num lock key, I should say. These keys are usually the keys which has a light indicated onto it. So like similarly, if you have this volume button, you might have seen on your keyboard, if it is muted, not for the maximum volume, not for any volume between 1 to 100, it shows a indicator. But if it is muted, then that key on your keyboard has a light indicator. On your laptop you can see that particular function. It is not there on the specific keyboard, but laptop keyboards which you have it, you have this particular mute with a light indicator. So these are some of the keys which tells you, these are the toggle keys which tells you that they have been activated or deactivated depending on the light which is on. So you have lowered position or the light indicator, and when it is off, it don't have a light. For muted, it is lighted when it is mute, and when it is not mute, that is a value between 1 to 100, that particular muted button is not blowing that particular light. So basically, these are small LEDs which you study in your COA, which is being there on your keyboards, and it gets a high signal and it gets lighted their particular value. So key labels should be large, meaningful and permanent. Obviously, these particular labels which are there on the keys, once you get acquainted with the keys, you know where that particular shift key or the enter key and the control key is there. But it should be there well intact with meaningful words, so that a novice user can understand. We have to have think for each and every keyboard that that particular novice user should know where that key is, what is that function of that particular key is, and how they can activate or deactivate that particular key. Some home keys may have additional features such as deeper cavity or small raised dot to help user locate their fingers properly. Caution, no standards for this. As we have discussed that we have for your F a slightly raised, a rectangular portion which you can see on your keyboards of your laptop also, and the desktops also when you are working in this college, and you have for your F and J, for both the keys, that small raised portion, these are called as the home key, where we know that where we have to place our fingers to start typing, so that we can have a minimum distance travel of our hands. Then comes the different function keys which is there. So users must either remember each key function, identify them from the screens display, or use a template over the keys to identify them properly. Obviously, F1, F2, F3, F2 is for your help function, F5 when you are using a PowerPoint presentation, then F5 is used for your presentation screen. So there are some of the shortcut keys also which we have. So these function keys have some specific functions defined, well defined. F1 is for the help, F2 is for your settings, and so on and so forth. So you have these particular things. So we have to reduce, what is the aim is, we have to reduce the number of keystrokes and the error. So whenever you have any of the operations which is done by a novice user, you should have a confirmation action also associated with each and every key which is that function key. Whenever you open on this particular caps lock or the num lock, it doesn't give you a notification, but whenever you are using a function key, we should definitely get some or the other warning message or a caution message. Do you want to do this? Some sort of thing, so that we can know what action that particular function key is going to perform. Meaning of each key can change with each application placement on the keyboard and can affect the efficient use. Where we are placing that particular key, how much that user is using it, which application uses that key the maximum. Like for PPT, as I told, we use F5 for the PowerPoint presentation. So whenever the novice user doesn't know, we have another option also from the file menu. But these function key are the shortcut keys which we usually use to perform some of the functions. Special purpose display often embed function keys in the monitor bezels also. We have some keys in the monitors also. Like if I enter this particular, I have these particular keys which are the shortcut keys here, so that I can have my pen, I can move forward, I can move backward. So these are some of the shortcut keys which I have on my screen. So you can have some of the screens on your monitor bezel also. Then lights next to keys used to indicate availability of the function. As I told you, these are called as the toggle keys. So these particular toggle keys are very important in our keyboard operations also. Typically simply labeled F1, F2. We have some meaningful labels such as cut, copy, paste. So we have some of has the function keys as F1 and F2. So frequent movement between the keyboard home position and the mouse function keys can be destructive to use. Whenever you are using these keys, like the window keys, so it again takes out from your application currently where you are working, and it shows you your desktop. So there are some of the keys when shortcut keys, when you want to see that particular screen in a single movement, you can use those particular keys. So alternative to use closure keys is alt or control. Like I have to cut and paste. Everybody have worked on MS Word. So for cut, copy, paste, what do we cut, paste we use? We use for cutting, we use Control X, and for paste we use Control V, and for copy we use Control C, Control V, and for cutting Control X, Control V. So these are some of the shortcut keys which we can use for specific operations using the Control and the Alt keys. This was for the Control, and for the Alt, what do we use? If I want to save a file save option in Word. I'm talking about MS Word only now. So file and then save, or you can use as Alt F plus S. So Alt F, the simultaneous two keys. Here the keys which I have told is the simultaneous keys which we have to use, then Alt F and then S, Control V and then X, Control X and Control V. So these are some of the operations which we want to perform. These operations we have to use these special function keys used on our keyboard. So now comes the cursor movement. The cursor movement is specifically these particular 4 keys which we are talking about. These keys, the arrow keys which we have, and these are the keys which have this option. See, I have this in what option do you have? See, we have all these particular 4 arrow keys. I would be coming into this. So these are the up, down, left and right keys. Some keyboards also provide diagonal keys also if you want to move diagonally. The best layout is this natural positioning, up, down and left and right. This is also called as, I drawed this because I wanted to make your attention to this inverted T position. See, this is inverted T, this option. This is inverted T option. Okay, your T is this way and now this is this way. So this gives you an inverted T option so that you have a bottom higher and you can use those particular keys. Allow users to place their middle 3 fingers in the way to reduce these 3 fingers, middle 3 fingers to be placed so that you don't, this finger moves up and down for your up and down arrow keys and you have a less stress on your fingers. So this inverted T is again because we wanted to reduce the stress on our hand and the fingers. So cross arrangement better for novice user than linear or the box arrangement. This arrangement is better for the novice user because they can understand, because as the key arrows are there, it shows where they are moving. This shows it is moving up, this is moving left, this is moving right, and from the up opposite one is the down. So it is very easy for the novice user to learn this particular thing. They typically include typomatic auto repeat features also when you are using this. Important to form fill in and direct manipulation options. Other movement may be performed with tap, enter and the home keys also. Like we have the home key, you go to the first page or your desktop, and the tab key we have to move between different switches also, or control alt tab. If I have to see the current open screen on my laptop. So these are some of the combination of the keys, or I should say the keyboard accelerators, which I can use for making the applications running. So keyboards and keypads are very small devices. They can be wireless or foldable keyboards. Obviously, nowadays you have a Bluetooth wired. Obviously, you have a wired ones also. So these are, I should say, wired. Then I can have Bluetooth or the wireless. Bluetooth or the wireless, which we have discussed, or the foldable keyboards. These foldable keyboards, for a normal layman, we can say that the laptop which gets folded, but it doesn't think that you have to fold this way. And Obviously, these virtual keyboards are the keyboards which you have seen on these particular screens. If I tell you, I have um, the virtual keyboard we usually get while we want to enter these particular operations. So that comes your virtual keyboards where you want to make some other different things to have option on these particular screens. Then the cloth keyboards, these cloth keyboards are the keyboards when assume I have a ABCDE style keyboard, but the user who is using this particular keyboard doesn't have a practice of using this and got tired of this fatigueness and doesn't have money to change this particular keyboard, so they can use this cloth keyboard, so that they can keep these particular cloth circuited keyboards on the original ABCD keyboard, and then if they use that particular keys, then it would start working as QWERTY keyboards. This is because we don't want to replace our current physical keyboards. Then you have the soft keys, the pens and the touchpads. The pens which I'm using is, or I'm using with the hands, this is the touch screens. So we are applying specific pressure so that it can recognize that particular pressure and draw it accordingly. Even sometimes my hand of my this coat touches and it gets a mark there because it gets that particular pressure on the screen, and it is identifying that some particular pen or the screen is touch is being used to have a signature on that particular page. Then comes the different pointing devices. Obviously, you might have studied a number of, or you might have seen a number of pointing devices. But first, we have to see what are the different things which we can do with those particular pointing devices. What we can do for pointing devices, the first thing which the pen which I am using is a pointing device. So I want to the pen, the touch screen pen. Then you have your mouse. You can have this as a wireless mouse or a wired mouse. Both the mouse are used as a this. Then you have touchpad of your laptops. All these are pointing devices. You can have joysticks also, trackballs also. So all these are your pointing devices. So when you are using these particular devices, you are going to select options. The user chooses from a set of items. I would be discussing 6 functions for this particular thing. First one is the select. So user is choosing from the set of the items. You have to select it. Use a traditional menu selection. Identification of a file in the dictionary, we can go and point it there. Like, see, I if I'm doing this, I can point with what thing I want. Okay, what thing I want. So I'm pointing on that particular thing. I'm selecting that. I want a laser pointer. I want a highlighter. I want a pen. If I'm using a highlighter, it would highlight this particular thing. So the thing which I have to use, I am selecting it from that option. Then I have to position. User chooses a point in a 1, 2, 3 or larger dimensions to keep that on a specific position. Used to create the drawing, like the drawing which I am creating, a user which I am creating. So we are pointing it, we are positioning it at specific location. Whenever you want to position your touchpad also, you move your fingers and it moves according to that. Your mouse also moves. Sometimes your mouse and your touchpad goes crazy. Similarly, when I'm having this hand on this, it's this is creating a craziness in this particular touch screen. So craziness is there for each and every devices because it is electronically connected, but it helps us to select, it helps us to position to a specific block of the text. Then you can see the orientation, that is user chooses a direction of 2, 3 or higher dimensional space. The direction may simply rotate a symbol on the screen, indicate a direction of motion for a spaceship or motion of operation of your robot arm. Similarly, you can see the same example for your orientation when we use a Google map. I think each and every student has studied this Google Map, has that Google Map on your phones, your laptops, and you might have seen the distances, where currently what is your location, where you have to go, how much time you would take, what are the different routes. So it is orienting you where you have to reach, what are the different ways in which you can reach, what would be the fastest journey if you're taking a metro or you're going by walking or by your car or a Ola, and so on and so forth. So this orientation is basically an application which we have for that particular device, so that where you have to switch between the users. Then the path, user rapidly performs a series of position and orient operations. You rapidly perform these particular operations and you make these particular things looking into that. So you have the path, you may be realizing a curving line in a drawing program, the instructions for the cloth cutting machine, the road map. I discussed this. What is the shortest path, how you can go, where you have a congestion, and similarly the orientation and path are used for your pointing devices. That is, nowadays it is doing with your GPS locators also. Then comes the quantify. User specifies a numeric value. This quantification is specifically, for example, I can take the font size which I have taken is 24 here. So that is the quantity which I have quantified. It may be by selecting if I have this particular drop down list, or if I have this drop and the up arrow key when you have this particular rolling pointers. So these are the things which we can quantify using our pointing devices, also by increasing the font size or font phase or selecting some of particular operations. Usually a one-dimensional selection of integer or the real values of the set parameters, such as the page number in the document, velocity of the shape, amplitude of the sound, and so on and so forth. And then comes the text. User enters, moves, edits the text, and obviously this is two-dimensional space. That is, you have this x and y coordinates. Each and every, the pixel value which you have, it starts from 0, 0, and if you have a 256 to 255 to 250, the screen size. What is the screen size? It depends on that particular screen size. You have the x values and you have the y values. So it is a two-dimensional plane in which you are writing, even though you are using a PowerPoint or you are using a Word document or you are doing any painting also. If you are using 3D, then it is another thing, but for writing and presentation, we usually use the two-dimensional in which we write that particular text or audio, or we write, we update or we delete some of the things. Pointing devices indicate the location of an insertion, deletion, or the updation, where we are doing all these particular things. So more elaborate tasks such as centering, margin setting, then font sizes, highlighting, boldface, underscore, page layout, all these are the things which we usually have for our pointing device. So coming to the end of this particular video, what all things we have discussed? We have discussed about what are the different types of our keyboards. First was QWERTY, second was DOVARC, and third was ABCD style. Then we have studied what are the different keys layout or the key functions which are there. Then how this particular function keys are there, key arrangement, key characteristics, what are the function keys, and how we can use those particular keys along with a combinational or the hotkey accelerators. Then we have seen the cursor movement, that is the inverted T option. And then coming, what are the different types of the keyboards which are available, how we can virtually use those particular keyboards, and then the characteristics of your different pointing devices like selecting, positioning, orienting, pathing, then quantifying, and the textual entry which we can make. Coming to the end of this video, in the next video we would be discussing about different devices which we are using for this pointing devices, like your mouse, your keyboards, and etc., along with the output devices also like the printers and so on. Thank you.